Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K, and we are officially in March. And I got a bit of, oddly enough, a bit of a Heroes theme going on this month for all my videos. It was fully not intentional. Sometimes when I plan a month, it goes, or sometimes it just randomly goes well. And to start off, I'm going to be doing a topic that has been on my mind a lot for a lot of years, about a certain game franchise that is one of the most played games in the world, worldwide. So much so that they even have sports for esports, and I get that. Plus, when I go to conventions, so many people character cosplay the different versions of these characters, and I love it. The characters from this series are really great. But in my full opinion, the game isn't as good as a lot of people build it up to be. And the game I am talking about is, of course, Overwatch. Now, in this video, I will be covering a couple of ideas of how the game could have been a game instead of what it is now. Also, a couple issues that I've got with the game. So, when Overwatch came out, I saw the trailers, I saw the advertisement, and yeah, okay, I bought it. Plus, at the time, I had a free PlayStation membership that was going on for over 2 months, so I decided to use it. And from now on, it's because of Overwatch and a game reviewer that I always watch, why I do my due diligence before I buy a game. I mean, I liked the game. I liked playing the modes for about a week, and then I wanted something more. I wanted, or maybe this kind of game just isn't for me. And these are just my opinions. No one has to agree with me. You can agree with me. You don't have to. But at the same time, I'm not attacking the fan base. If people want to play the Overwatch games, I'm not gonna say shit. But don't you think you deserve more than what you were given? And even in Overwatch 2, they promised things, but obviously that didn't happen because they just remade the same game over again. Actually, you know what? I don't even think they even released a new game. They just updated the first game, if I recall. So, my big issue with it is there's no story mode. There's nothing like that. There's no campaign. And with characters as diverse and as intricate as Overwatch, you'd think they do better. I mean, another game I got around the same time that came out, Battleborn, did kind of the same thing, but unlike Battleborn, Overwatch had no story or no collectability in the game except for skins. Seriously, I have renamed Overwatch Cosplay Ideas the video game, because basically that's what it is. I know I flip-flop between points I'm making, and I usually do that because with a game like this, it didn't go well for me. After I played the game for a good while, the characters I used a lot were Junkrat, Lucio, and Diva. I used them a lot because I like their style. I like their designs. Like, everything about them just scream. And also, Diva is best girl. If you don't agree, you are wrong. Okay, I said you can agree with me or disagree, but Diva is best girl for me. But I wanted to know more about these characters. And playing a character that you don't know that much, it's like throwing someone who's not a DC fan into playing Batman Arkham Knight and expecting them to know everything about the universe. You can't do it. You gotta, like, you can't just be thrown into the deep end of the game. You gotta slowly dip your toes into a little bit with a little bit of background. And there's nothing like that in this game. There's no story mode. There's no bonuses. There's no extras that kind of reveal your character's background. Or because, okay, after I played the game for about a week and then my membership died, I wasn't going to pay again to get online because I don't play online that much. I don't play online games, so it was a one-time thing for me. So, 3 big things came to my mind while I was playing it. And I can't find it anymore because it's been like almost a decade of when I commented this, but I shit you not, this is exactly what happened. So, as Overwatch started getting a big fan base, and again, me not knowing that it was not a non-story game, I thought at least they would like add it later on. So I commented on the Overwatch Facebook page that the game, I like playing as these characters. I love the characters. Are you guys going to do anything to give us more information on the characters? And I shit you not, this is what they did. They thanked me for loving the game, and then they sent me a link to their Wiki bios. Yes. They sent me a link to the character bios that indicate their story, their abilities, their past. I couldn't believe what happened with that. And that just baffled me. Because I do my research nowadays, and I did my research a lot back then too. So apparently, they wanted to do a game like this because from what I read, I mean, I may be wrong, I'm not 100% on this, Overwatch, the company Blizzard at the time, or ActiBliz right now, couldn't make a game to do a whole story for all the characters that they built and all the characters that they added later. They couldn't create a story for it. You're telling me the company could not come up with stories for a game with this many characters? And yet, before all this amazing new technology in gaming, they created this and had expansions on this with stories, lore, and way more characters than Overwatch. And you're telling me they couldn't come up with stories for these characters, but they had the foresight to have all this information in the bios of Wiki. So, you paid almost $80, $100 for this game with no lore, no story mode, no none of that, no information on these characters or anything, but they have the nerve to put it up on Wiki for people to read. That makes little to no sense. It's mind-boggling to me. I've been holding on to these ideas for years, and only now did I decide to actually voice them out on a video. I mean, when I played Battleborn, there wasn't that much else. They had a story mode that I could play online with people. I mean, doing the missions alone is suicide, basically. But at the same time, I enjoyed the characters. They were unique and they were fun. Also, if you did certain missions with certain characters, you would get lore for these characters. So, why didn't Overwatch do that? What if you do? What if they had? I mean, I guess there are achievements. I'm gonna have to look those up. But why not? When you play a match with a character for so long, for so many times, you get access to the character's lore via either audio logs, like how they do in the Batman games, or you get something about their backstory. Because here's the second thing that bugged me about it. So the first thing was the lack of story mode, the lack of innovation, the lack of pure simple-mindedness. The second thing that bothered me is when they said they couldn't make a game like that and to make it as super grand as other games, then why did you bother multiple times doing cutscene quality trailers for your characters? All of those trailers could have been cutscenes in your game, whether flashbacks or actual story mode mission cutscenes. See, that's the second thing that bugs me. The idiocy of it all. For example, like the scene with Bastion realizing that he was a war machine and caused devastation in nature. Couldn't that have been a flashback after we complete a mission of his? Like really? Or the scene where Reaper, Widowmaker, and Sombra's release trailer. Why couldn't that have been a mission? Having Reaper go in first and taking out a whole bunch of enemies, and the fact that there's no enemy ideas in this game is also bad. Like, you just fight each other, and obviously that's what they were doing. That's what they were going for. But seriously, Reaper could have destroyed a whole bunch of people, and then during the second part of the mission, where Sombra doing a little bit of not stealth, because obviously this isn't one of those games. But what if we had to go through a whole bunch of guys secretly? And then we do that cutscene where she's blackmailing the governor or the president or whoever she was blackmailing. I don't even remember. They could have done that for the end of mission cutscene where Reaper's pissed off and Widowmaker suspects Sombra wasn't being as truthful as she was. Seriously, I came up with these ideas years ago, but it was right after watching all this stuff. And the fact that Overwatch 2 hasn't innovated in anything, and not only that, from what I remember, pretty much gutted a whole bunch of gameplay options or something like that, from what I recall in a Blizzard Vision Fails video I saw a good while ago. My point is, they made World of Warcraft. They could have done this in the same way, having it be a story-filled, because a lot of things aren't answered for this entire game. And I say game. Like, what made Overwatch go dormant? What happened? What great threat has now come here that requires Overwatch to come back? Are certain characters villains because I can't tell anymore? I mean, Widowmaker, Reaper, Sombra, Junkrat, Roadhog are villains, but it doesn't show their intricacies with other characters. I don't know. So is Overwatch the grand thing where the heroes and villains have to join forces, or are the villains still villains and Overwatch is just the heroes and they gotta fight them again? It doesn't explain anything, and I am not going to accept an excuse. Read the Wicca. I am not going to do that because that is a cop-out, and people should know that. that it's a cop-out. As to how I would build the game better, I'll get to that in a minute. Another big problem I have in this game is it's not a big issue, but I feel like it was a sneaky approach. I like it when characters are given their story and their own personalities. But when you write a character to be a certain stereotype or a certain attribute or a certain, again, personality, you can't just make it happen out of thin air. It's either written from when you make the character, and what I'm getting at is when they announced Tracer was in the LGBTQ community 9 months later after release. And the way they announced it was with a comic where she was with her girlfriend, which I love. I love that. But the thing is, and then they added a whole bunch of other characters having a lot of either mental disabilities or orientations, and I love that. I love that they did that for the community and for making other people with disabilities feel like there's a character for them, because I get it. But what bugs me is how long they waited to announce this. They could have done this launch. They could have done it maybe a month or two after and explain the characters' backstories a little bit with an update of gameplay that includes bios for the characters. But no, they did 9 months later, they do alternate skins for the characters, and they did it in a comic. So, not the game you made people pay hundreds of dollars for worldwide. And my big thing is, and I don't know if this was strategic, but it feels that way. This big reveal, they could have done it for any character. They could have had any character be this way. But they strategically made their poster girl of the game in this. And I'm not complaining about that. I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying it just feels like they were strategic about it, and it happened months later. For example, when I watch a TV show and I don't know what a character's whole background is, it gets me curious. And when the reveal comes out, and I'm like, okay, that was smartly written and well done. For example, when they did Osmodius and Fizzarali were in a relationship in Hell of a Boss, I saw little hints in the season 1 finale, and then as they build it up in season 2, they became one of my favorite couples of Hell of a Boss. And they'll definitely be on my list for animated couples in the future. I love their chemistry because it was given time and they showed the relationship. They didn't just say it later. Or in Dino Fury and The Loud House with Izzy and Luna. They didn't just shout it out immediately. They built it up, and then when the reveal happened, I loved it. I loved both of them. All three of these scenarios have one thing in common that the Overwatch doesn't. Writing. They didn't just blatantly outright do it. They just... They had their time to build it up for the people who watch the shows, and then they revealed it. They didn't just smack it on 9 months later. That's a big thing for me. When characters are built a certain way just cause for service and to be inclusive with no real rhyme or reason to it, that's when I get irritated about it, because you can literally do it with any character. What makes this character that attribute? And why? Not just, we're writing it, so that's why. It bugs me to no end. Not just in Overwatch, but in every TV show where they are doing that. But at the same time, it was a great addition. It was a great addition because it got more characters to be creative like that, and I do love it. Now, that's a small gripe considering the other big gripes that I have with the game. And now that I'm done with my 3 gripes, which were lack of story mode and any lore within in-game. 2, the audacity that this game has had no innovations for almost 10 years, if I'm recalling, when it came out. How the only new update they do is skins, new characters that, again, have no lore at all, and the cutscene quality trailers that they did that should have been in-game for cutscenes. Now, I know what you guys are probably thinking. How would I build a story mode for this many characters? Well, easy. A branching story. And I don't mean you have to do a story in order to unlock the characters. For multiplayer, all the characters would be unlocked and ready to go. But if you want to enjoy the story of a favorite character, now, here's the thing. This idea I have right now, it took me 5 months after I stopped playing Overwatch and started watching videos of it, started reading a little bit of the lore. Okay, yeah, I hated that I read the lore because I was interested in these characters. But at the same time, I wanted this in the game. So, and then I started thinking of a story mode of how they could do it for this game with the vast variety of characters that they've done. Here's how I would do it. Let's see, I need a blank paper in order to prove this. Okay. So, a branching system. So, for example, let's say for the start of the game for campaign, they do like this grand opening where they showcase something that happened, but each story mode takes place at a different part of the character's life. And we get a little bit of backstory, just a little bit, and I'll get to that more later. So, because they're 2 of the most popular characters, we start off with either Tracer or Widowmaker. And how we would do it is this. Right at the story mode, you see these 2 circles. And it is showcased because with silhouettes that one of them is Tracer, one of them is Widowmaker. So you select it, you choose the character, and then you go through a story via their point of view. For example, if you pick Widowmaker, it goes back to her tragic past. I mean, they dive into her and Tracer's backstories in Death Battle better than they did in Overwatch. Do you understand how kind of infuriating and hilarious that is? So we get Widowmaker's backstory, and each character will have missions of 4 missions apiece in order to kind of make it feel like not so much of a slog for each character. Then, so we get all of the mechanics, all the techniques that she has with a little bit of character banter as they go through the mission, as you would in any other game. There's banter, there's dialogue, there's all that. And there will be enemies, obviously. I think either the great threat that goes on. I mean, at least in Battleborn, we knew what the threat was, and all of the factions had to kind of work together, even though some of them don't like each other. At least we could have done that. But for these enemies, they could have had different types, like the melee monsters, the shooters. So basically, each enemy would kind of correlate to another character's game style, so they don't have to do that much because Genji's more of a combat specialist. Same with Reinhardt and Junkrat and Roadhog are more of the what's the word? shooter guys. So we would have characters that would basically be like in the classes of characters as the tankers, the medics, and all of that, but as enemies. That way they don't have to do so much and make it feel like it's a different game. So it still feels like it's Overwatch, but in enemy form. That way that we could get something with it. And during each mission, there would be small like collectibles that you can find throughout the level. And by collecting these collectibles, you get bonuses, backgrounds for each character's backstory. So you know a little bit about them, either via screenshots of some of their lore, some of their backstory, or you get audio logs between them and another character, so that you can kind of see how they feel about one character. Like they could hate one character and be somewhat okay with another, something like that. And then at the final part of the fourth mission, they would have to battle another character. For this, because they got that rivalry going in Tracer's final mission, she could fight Widowmaker. For Widowmakers, it could be Tracer. Not saying that it's a difference of the same story, but it's a different part of the story from different times. Like Tracer's boss fight with Widowmaker would be like maybe months before the boss fight of Widowmaker and Tracer. That way it kind of gives you that kind of dynamic about how each character goes up against a character. And once you complete that, so let's say you complete Tracer's mission story mode first, and then it branches off into 2 new characters. Now, the fun thing I came up with this because I know some players, when they reach their favorite character, they stop story mode altogether, and I get that. So a fun gimmick could be is that once you branch off into the next 2 characters, you don't know who you're going to be until you start. And no, I'm not going to do that cheap thing where you get locked out of the story mode menu. Once you pick a story, you can exit out if you don't want to tackle this character yet. And it would be fun. Like the next ones could be Soldier 76 let's see, what's another great character? Mercy. Then we could see their backstories, see their characters, and then see the characters they would have to fight. And yeah, obviously when we get to that, Genji would have to fight Hanzo, and Hanzo would have to fight Genji. Obviously, because brotherly love. Have Tollborn go up against Roadhog, because, you know, they're both kind of scrap-ish characters. So having Tollborn have that kind of fight with Roadhog kind of contrast each other, and it works. And having different classes go up against the different classes for boss fights definitely showcases your skill with different classes. And another part, so like I said, let's see, 76, M. So in this scenario, or if you fight Widowmaker, one will branch off. She'll get one branch off, which will lead us to Junkrat. And we get his backstory. And then after we beat Junkrat, it will branch off into 2 more. But once we complete Mercy's, it doesn't branch off. So there's no real telling, unless you complete every character's story, you see the branching system. So one character could lead you to 1 new character, one character could lead you to 2 different new characters, or once you complete a character's story, it doesn't branch out. So you have to go back onto a different branch tree in order to progress through each character. That way, it could be fun. It could be enjoyable. And that way, if you want to play as your favorite character, you don't know when you're going to get them. And I think that's something that could be extremely fun, extremely unique to Overwatch. Because of how many characters are integrated, they could then add, like, once you get the new characters, they would obviously add, like, for some of them who ended on dead ends, then they could add those new characters at the certain points, depending on how far. And obviously, each game won't be randomized. the branching systems will be set. That way, a lot of people don't play Junkrat, or people will start off as Junkrat and Widowmaker, or Widowmaker Tracer, Tracer and Diva. So it will be a set thing. That's something that could have been done. And I came up with this idea months after the game's release. So I didn't think about it for years. I thought about it immediately, and I still have those ideas. I mean, in my opinion, Overwatch should have been a series. It should have been a series with the same animation, but as a TV series. So we could be told the story, and then it becomes a game. Because when you're building a game that has this many characters, I mean, I get they were going for that competitive game thing, but at the same time, you shot yourselves in the foot by doing it, because it's been so long since they've updated anything. It's been so long since they've done anything different. And just re-releasing the game with new characters and not that much innovation, when it comes to games, that's a good way to start losing some fan base. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong in these ideas. But again, it's something that's been on my mind for so long, and I finally get to decided to talk about them. And it just feels... I mean, I don't want these amazing characters to go away. Like, I like the characters, but that's the problem. If I like the character, but I don't like your game, and your game did nothing to help me love the characters even more. I mean, I love Junkrat because he's crazy. I love his mechanic. I love his weapons, but aside from that, I don't know anything about him. And I'm not going to spend hours upon hours on reading about it. Like, I read books. I read books if I want something to read. I don't read stuff on Wicca. When it's supposed to be a visual medium, let your medium be visual for the fans. Don't force them. I mean, if they made more comics for Overwatch, like they did when they revealed Tracer and Emily, then I'd be all for it. And it gives you a different medium in order to explore the characters. But when you do it like once, from what I know, and you just have the whole thing else be a game, and you only reveal it through a comic, I can strongly see that my comment about it being a strategic maneuver is almost on the money. And honestly, and again, for gameplay, each character having their own collectibles, having their own special stuff in order for you to learn more about the characters, it feels like they dropped the ball hard. Like the ball dropped harder than a New Year's ball. And if it was a wrecking ball. I'm not bagging on Overwatch fans. I'm not bagging on them whatsoever. I'm not. But with something like this, and the fact that the company has done very little to improve on this game, and it doesn't look like they're going to be doing anything else, to see these characters go to waste, it's an absolute shame. Unless, like I said, it's just Cosplay Ideas, the video game. I am not budging on that comment whatsoever. And honestly, those are my opinions for Overwatch, of how it could have been a better game and a better franchise. But, hey, that's just one cheap Canadian Productions opinion. So, what are your opinions? Did I hit some moments on the mark? Did I make some good points? And obviously, I'm not bagging on the community. I'm not bagging on fans or players. I'm just voicing my opinions as a gameplay and a story analytical way. And that's it for this, ladies and gentlemen. March is starting off as pretty good. Like, comment, subscribe down below, and join me next week for March break, where it's going to be a festival, as I give new ideas to I know Power Rangers aren't doing the Sentais anymore, but does that mean my ideas are going to stop? Absolutely not. Where we're going to be going from hunting Oni and being somewhat chaotic to being a series that might be going into a game. This is Gamer K, logging out.